Well, good afternoon and welcome to Northern Maine Productions. It is October 1st, 2025. I'm working on a little project out here in my dooryard. Some of you might have saw the videos that I uploaded about 3 years ago. I think it was during September of 2022. I rebuilt my 2000 Silverado truck out here in my yard, and I actually took 3 trucks and built one. So I'm building a new body for it right now. That back body that I bought off Facebook Marketplace like 3 years ago is finally falling all apart. So this bedside that I have loosely stuck on here came off from a Texas pickup that had high mileage on it, and it got rear-ended, and when I got this, the whole back end in here was all smashed up in, drove up in. So I did, the right thing, I guess. A friend of mine gave me this old bedside, so I hammered and dollied it all out, and it come out fairly well. So this whole floor is in pretty reasonable shape, especially for something from around here. Obviously I live in northern Maine, so finding these GMT 800 trucks around here that are rust free is impossible. And there's not a spot of rust on this bedside at all. And I did put a new inner fender well up in there. As you can see, there's the pieces of the old one still. I guess my camera's decided to go out of focus here on me. Come on, focus, you stupid thing. There. So this side of it it's in so-so shape. It's had a big scratch along the top of this wheel well, and there's some rot coming through, so I got a repair panel to put on this side, and I'm going to get a new inner fender well to put in this side of it too. In here in the workshop, I've got one new rocker panel here. I've got a cab corner. And I got the repair panel for that right side body side. So out here, this is the actual truck. This is that 2000 Silverado. I'll probably make those videos visible again that I had put on there 3 years ago. They're still on YouTube. They're just set as private, so they're not visible right now, but I'll probably eventually. So as you can tell, it's got some rust again. This front fender kind of blew out pretty bad, and this back quarter panel was just barely started when I put this on here, but it's pretty well blown out. There's not a whole lot of inner fender left in there either. Let's see. Tailgate's got a little bit of a blowout on it, but it ain't completely gone. I did put a brand new bumper on the back of this shortly after I got it going, and I put a brand new trailer hitch on it. It's this side here that's really gone to pieces. This bedside, the patch that was on there fell off partway through last winter, and there's no wheel well left in there at all. This whole thing is just, she's all falling apart. I crawled around under this just a little while ago, and the frame is actually still looking really good on this thing, and the underside of the cab's still really good. I have got to put some rocker panels on it now though. Those old original rocker panels are finally starting to blow out on it. One on this side really got bad right underneath the back door here last winter. Last winter was an exceptionally warm and wet winter. It was a mess all winter long, so this thing really took a beating last winter. So when I did this project 3 years ago, this truck had 143,000 on it. Now if you remember, I got this cab in this bare frame. This was just a rolling chassis, and the cab was basically gutted out on this thing. There was no doors on it, and there was not much left of the interior. Some of the dash was still in it, but mostly it was gutted. So I spent about 45 hours taking the original truck completely apart, putting this one together. That included changing everything on the interior. That included the whole entire dash, the seats, the console, the headliner, the back seat, all the rear interior panels. And this thing's not really clean right now, but you know. And I put it all back together in this truck. I took all the wiring harnesses, the fuse boxes, everything out of the other truck. And it is now, let me see, it's now got 175, 793. And that has been trouble-free mileage pretty much. The old truck still runs really good. No check engine light. No airbag light. It's got a change oil light on. But yeah, it runs. It's been perfect. The only issue I had with this right off the get-go was the rear end was worn out in it. I had to had to put all new bearings in the rear end. Put new axle bearings in it. I changed one axle, and I put pinion bearings and seals in it, and I put carrier bearings in it. And it's still got the original ring gear and pinion. And it had somewheres in the vicinity of 300,000 miles on it when this truck originally got parked. And the engine's still got the same lifter tick in it that it's always had. I've had this since it had 126,000 miles on it. Everything still works on this old truck. I even got the factory style fog lights in it. The only thing that I had to recently replace on this, I had to recently replace the alternator. The alternator was bad. And let me see, the only other thing that I did, probably about a year and a half ago or so, I had to put a new Y pipe on it, and I put a new muffler and a tailpipe on it. One of the catalytic converters blew out on it. So this actually isn't actually warmed up right now. This engine's still kind of cold, so it. Oh, this is one of them engines that kind of knocks and rattles a little bit when it's cold. It always has. But so I may pop a few videos on here in the coming weeks here. I'm gonna try to do some rebuilding work on this. I need to put cab corners and rocker panels on it, and I got a pair of front fenders. Obviously I'm going to try to get rid of this old box and put that other box on it, but somebody asked me a while ago if all that work was worth that. When I it's 45 hours worth of work was a lot of work, but it was actually worth it for me because I worked on these trucks. I took GM training on these trucks, and I worked on them for a number of years in a GM dealership. So, a few years ago when I put the videos online of this, when I was doing this, I pointed out in those videos that when I put this together exactly how it would have been assembled from the factory. I put all the wiring harnesses back in the original hangers. I put the hoses back in the original hangers. I charged the AC up to specs with an AC machine. I done everything right by the book, and this thing has been outstanding. Of all of that work that I did to this truck, the only issue I had with it was the rear end was worn out in it, and that was because that was a chance I took. I wasn't familiar with it, the only reason I left that rear end in this frame was because the housing was completely rotted right out on the other rear, from the other truck. So, and I actually wanted to change this too, because this one actually has a 373 ratio in it, and the other truck had a 342 ratio in it. So, with this 4.8 in here, 342 was a little bit too much gearing for this 4.8. It just didn't really have as much power as I wanted it to. I'd driven lots of these trucks with 373 gears, and I just liked that gear ratio a whole lot better. The truck works a lot better with 373s. Now, of course, running a different gear ratio hasn't been totally without its problems. I had to take a Tech 2 scan tool and go into the ABS module and reprogram that for 373 gears, which is alright, but the problem is the ECM's still not programmed for 373 gears, and it's pretty near an act of God to get a program issued from GM. So all I did with me was I took my nephew with me with his cell phone with a GPS app on it, and we determined that the speedometer was not off by much. Actually, the slower you go, the closer the thing is to being right. But when you're going upwards of 75 miles an hour, if you want to drive 75 miles an hour, it's got to read 82 miles an hour on the speedometer. So, and it's only off, the mileage ain't gonna vary much on the odometer. Jumpings, I think you got to drive it quite a few miles to get it to be even off, like 9/10. I never actually figured it out, but I know I took it on a 150-mile trip there one time, and it wasn't even, I don't even think it was off more than 2 miles on the odometer. So yes, this was definitely a worthwhile project when I did this. I've gotten several more years of trouble-free driving out of it, basically, and now it's time to put a few repairs into it. Hopefully this time I might be able to actually make this truck look better. A couple of years ago there was a pretty serious tragedy in my family, and that put the damper on doing all these projects like this. My life actually got completely turned around. 2 years ago my youngest brother died of a drug overdose, and man, that was really tough. It was awful tough. And my brother had a little boy that was pretty close to me, my nephew, and him and his mother were having some problems, and he wanted to come and live with me. So, long story short, I ended up getting custody of my nephew, and he came here and he lived with me for over a year. And just recently he's decided now that he wants to go back and live with his mother again. So I've been pretty well occupied here for the last few years, and I ain't had much time to work on vehicles. But now I was just looking at this front tire on this truck is one of the ones off the four-wheel drive that I showed in the other video that was brand new 3 years ago, and now they're just about worn out. But so yeah, this truck has been super good. It's not very clean under the hood here anymore. I had this all cleaned up when I put it together, and for the record, I know a lot of people hate EverStart batteries from Walmart. That battery has a delivery date on it of August of 2015. So this battery has been in operation for 10 years, and it has never been dead since I've had this truck. This truck sat here in my dooryard for 2 years and hardly ever got driven. I took it to the dump maybe once every couple weeks. And that friggin' battery never went dead one time, and it still to this day has not gone dead. I did a load test on it this past spring. That battery is a 600 cold cranking amp battery, and it's only got 305 cranking amps. That's what was left this past spring. So the EverStart batteries are pretty reliable, I guess, especially when you drive on the interstate a lot. That's kind of been my issue with this truck rusting out. That's why I've had a lot of rust issues, because I drive this daily on the interstate here in northern Maine, and they use that calcium and brine. Sorry about these vehicles driving by here, it's a little loud. They use that calcium brine slime on the interstate here in the wintertime, and it just eats these poor old vehicles up. But it doesn't help none that this thing's 25 years old either. So yes, I definitely need a new windshield in this thing too. The windshield is all broke to pieces in this truck. So anyways, thought maybe I'd just post this interesting little project here. I'm not being really fancy with this bedside. I drilled the old one off there, and my friend had drilled this one off the other body, and I'm just going to bolt it on here. You can hide the bolts fairly well on this one. Bolts are all hidden down in behind this tail light here, and there's a few around the wheel well, and some down the front, and some across here. I don't care. This thing's 25 years old. I'm not in it for a show truck anymore. I'm into it for something that's functional, and that's all I care about. I mean, this truck's, I built it to be a daily driver. It's probably going to be daily driven until it falls right apart completely. So, well anyways, I guess that's it. I've wasted enough time here. Y'all have a good evening. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.